Where'd
every
Ed? Oh,
single
Ed just
podcast.
rolled off my screen.
Oh, he's still there.
Here, still.
Yep.
He's still there. All right. Hey, welcome to the Lovecraft eZine podcast. A special episode of Blossom tonight on a different time, at a different time. Thanks to Ed, Doug. Thank you so much for putting up with my rescheduling like twice at least. So.
No, I know
Thanks
it's
so
worth
much
it.
for having us.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm not all the way. A lot of flare-ups, but I'm heading in the right direction. So,
Awesome.
if you are watching live, let me know that you can see us and hear us as usual. Yeah. So guests today, Doug Wynne and Ed Erdelac. Am I saying your last name right?
Yeah, you got it. You nailed it.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Alan. All right. So it's Thursday, July the 14th.
9 o'clock.
It's 9 o'clock.
Wow, that was good
Oh, there
timing.
you go.
That was great timing. Thank you, Mrs. Robot.
9 o'clock in Arkham.
It's 9 o'clock in Arkham. It's 8 o'clock Central. You know, if you're watching this later, PM. The reason why this is so important is that I became a temporary bachelor today. Danielle and Logan driving across the country to Tallahassee, Florida. To her sister's gonna have knee surgery, so they're gonna help her recuperate for they'll be gone at least a week and a half, 10 days. But right now, at this very moment, they are sitting in a first night musical of Legally Blonde. So in Mobile, Alabama, on the way.
Cool.
Yeah.
You got to recover and make the most of your bachelor week there, Mike.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There'll be spells. There'll be portals. It'll be a lot of fun. You know, things I can't try when it's not safe when the family's around.
Keep it squamous.
Yeah. So, yeah, Pete Rodkins. How are you, Pete?
I'm exhausted.
Did I say I'm Mike Davis, or does everybody already know that?
You're Mike Davis.
Okay.
Nobody else wants to be.
That's probably true.
Maybe today.
What have you been up to, Pete? Buy any books lately?
Yeah. Yes. So a friend and I went up to Providence by train last weekend.
What?
2 weekends ago.
You went by train?
We went by train.
Oh.
How long does that take?
Such a jerk.
All right. So here's the deal. It's supposed to take about from West Palm Beach to Providence is supposed to take about 33 hours. The train that left the day before was delayed for 13 hours.
Oh yeah.
I say it takes a little bit longer.
You hit a train.
You take the train. You be ready for delays.
Right.
You just go in prepared.
But it took us about 30.
Did you bring books to read for 33 hours?
We did.
He brought some back.
It's called
Just
a
so you have
Kindle.
more to carry.
It took us about 30 hours to get from West Palm Beach to New York City, where promptly they canceled my connector to Providence. And they forced us to spend the night in New York City. And then when they put us on the train at 7 o'clock, and we made it by like 11.
I'm picturing Pete right now, Doug. He's got an old paper map in his hand, and he's looking up at the skyscrapers, and everything. Where do we go?
Where's the Statue of Liberty?
Tourist map. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we did. We got off the Penn Station, and our hotel was 1 block away.
Nice.
And they pointed us to a restaurant that was still open, and we had food, and then we went to sleep in a bed.
Did they pay for your hotel?
I'm still in negotiations.
Okay.
It's an expensive night if they don't. New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the July 3rd.
Oh.
4th of July weekend.
Oh wow, yeah. You got a room at
found
all.
a room.
Yeah. Well, we usually do the podcast on Sundays, as everyone knows. This one's on Thursday night since I was unavailable this past Sunday, and so we may not get as many live viewers, but the same number of viewers later, and especially on the audio edition. That's always a lot of people listen to that because they can listen on the go. Hey Rick, how are you?
I'm fine.
Good. Melissa is here.
Hey.
You want to
Hi.
introduce yourself?
Yeah, I hate this part.
Okay,
Melissa.
we can stop there.
Hi.
Melissa, I like your hair.
Thank you.
You changed it. It looks nice.
Thank you. It's a little lighter. Yeah. Good. Afterwards, I'm going to tell you guys all about Blobfest after we interview the authors.
Oh, that's
because I had some very exciting weekends.
All right, well, don't let me close up without just stop me.
No, you guys have to hear all about it.
Yeah, so does the audience.
Yes.
So anyway, you guys know who Rick is, who Pete is, hopefully who I am. Doug, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm
Yes.
Doug Wynne, Douglas on the books, and I got my start in weird fiction writing largely with these guys at the Lovecraft eZine. Did some audio readings of stories back in the day for the fiction edition of the Lovecraft eZine, and then after publishing some Lovecraftian novels, some cosmic horror novels, I got into a bunch of anthologies over the years for Lovecraftian related books. And when those added up, I finally put together a collection that includes some stories that were first published by you, Mike, on the Lovecraft eZine. So you guys helped me to get my start, and I'm forever grateful. It's good to be back.
Thanks, man. That's nice to hear. And it's still Lovecraft eZine because those stories are still on the website. Hundreds of stories free to read. So
great archive.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm focusing on the podcast mostly, and books, and promoting other writers. Here's how one person put it: I raise a big tent for the weird carnival. So you must be a writer.
Yes, you
Doug.
did.
Doug dedicated this to me. Thank you. That was
nice.
Very unexpected.
My pleasure, man.
And the back
My pleasure.
here, Cthulhu by M. Wayne Miller, says, for Mike Davis, who raised a big tent for the weird carnival. And I looked at that, I'm like, people ask me what I do sometimes, and I'm like, I don't actually know. And I'm just going to answer that from now on. So
you don't know?
Yeah.
You
the carnival
More
barker.
Existential. Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Everybody else.
Are you
Everybody
accusing
else
me
knows.
of Mr. Dark?
Cougar and Dark?
Yeah, that's something wicked this week comes. If you're accusing me of being Mr. Dark, this might be. Although I'm more Charles Hathaway. The old dad.
It's 1,000 years of Christmas.
Yeah. Ed, hey, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Ed Erdelac, Edward M. on the books. I got my start doing Cthulhu stories. Actually, probably writing short stories for various anthologies and stuff. I was in World War Cthulhu, which is where I first made my appearance on this podcast a long time ago. I gave a disastrous video interview. I couldn't keep my camera shaking like steady. Since then, I've done.
It's the audio that matters.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Hopefully, I said something interesting because the video was migraine-inducing. Since then, I've written a MERKABAH Rider series, is what I'm best known for. It's my Hasidic Jewish gunslinger traveling through the weird west of the 1880s, hunting down the renegade teacher who betrayed his mystic order of astral travelers to the old ones. M. Wayne Miller does the interior illustrations to that as well. And I've done a couple of books over the years. Bond Unknown, I matched up Cthulhu and Bond. I just did Call of Cthulhu for April Moon Books, which was Winnie the Pooh and Cthulhu. And my last book was...
that is a really popular book.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see that's taken off. That was a nifty idea. I was not sold on it at first, but I love Milne, and I read Milne to my kids. And
Pete's got a story in there too.
No.
Yeah, Pete's in there too, yeah.
I got a story. I told Neil no.
Yeah, I did too at first.
I was like, there's no way I'm doing this.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's
great
terrible.
idea.
And I thought about it and was like, I want to do that.
Neil's like, he sponsored me. He still is to post about it on the eZine Facebook page, the big one. And I thought, I wonder what everyone's going to say about this. Like, oh, this is a stupid idea and everything.
Yeah.
Oh man, people are like, oh man, this is the best idea ever. And it was like this huge viral post and everything. I was like, all right.
Awesome, man. It finally joins Lovecraft in the public domain, some of this stuff.
Yes,
Yep.
Ooh,
do
finally.
without you will,
Have at it.
and you guys did. So,
But I remember reading, anybody read The Tao of Pooh? I remember
Yes.
reading
Yeah,
that
back in
back in
the
high
day.
school.
many
Benjamin
Yeah.
Hopp.
times. I've got it
Yeah,
right
it
in
was
front
kind
of
of
me,
my
as a matter of
introduction.
fact.
And there's a sequel, The Tay of Piglet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Tao of Pooh was like an introduction to philosophy for me, back in high school, as weird as that is.
Yeah, it's
But I,
well, no, it's
I'm
a
gonna,
really nice introduction to Taoism,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
it
it's
is.
not much in the tradition of Taoism. It's just simple enough, So it explains Taoism really well, and especially Wu, doing without doing, all that kind of stuff. So
Totally. Anyway, I'm going to plant the flag right now. I have dibs on the Tao of Cthulhu. Okay, going to work that out. I'm serious, man. I've been thinking of this for years before the Pooh Cthulhu book came out.
It would be a bestseller. I feel like go for it. Yeah.
Now, there's room for a sequel because next year,
House at Pooh Corner, right?
yeah, the Tigger becomes public domain.
Yeah.
And all
now
the
he's
stories.
he's Naharlatotep, right? Tigger, wouldn't you say?
He's a mask for sure.
Yeah.
Tiger mask.
Work.
Yeah. Hey, patrons make this happen. No lie, full stop. One new Patreon, Robert Mamone, he sent me an email. I told him thanks, and he sent me an email back. It's only right that I turn from being a long-time free listener into a long-term paid listener. Hope you're well. Looking forward to continue listening to the podcast. And then he says, I think the positive impact, this is about me. We don't need to talk about that. No, this is what I wanted to talk about. Mike, wanted to touch base and say how much I enjoyed the recent episode of the show interviewing Laurel Hightower. That was about a month and a half ago, I think. Some really strong points were made about how men treat and continue to treat women almost as possessions to use and abuse. Her story of being cornered in a diner really shook me up. On the flip side, the chat about Mothman's butt had me in stitches. It was a great relief to a trying week.
That is one great butt.
It's something to aspire to. No lie.
I wish I had I went through all my pictures because I went to see the Mothman statue and I remember looking, but I don't think I took a picture. I'm like, how did I not take a picture of it?
Well, you didn't want to embarrass the guy.
There.
I mean, it's
I
one thing
guess.
to ogle. It's another thing to go, hey, So
It's Mothman. I was like, I guess it's just, keep it in my memory. It's like
And Adam T sent me some gifts. Look at this, Pete and Rick. This is a Joe Pulver notebook.
Ooh, wow.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
His just random thoughts and stuff like that. So thank you, Adam. And then he sent me an email. Thanks for reminding me that reading is a joy. I think maybe that's one of the nicest compliments I've ever gotten. So thank you, Adam. So let's talk to Doug, and then we're going to talk to Ed, or Pete's going to do most of the talking.
What?
With Ed.
You always do this to me.
Well, I always tell you ahead of, sometimes I tell you ahead of time.
We don't have to segregate entirely either.
No, we
You wanna
don't. We
chime
don't
in
need
on,
to do
on
that.
anything, Ed, please.
Oh, I can jump in.
Shut the
Leave
hell
me
up,
alone
Ed.
out here.
Get out of here.
Are you guys going to Necronomicon? I know Pete is.
Yeah.
90% going right now. Yeah, I'm going to be speaking on a panel on Zorniel Hurston, actually.
Oh,
Sure.
nice.
Cool.
Yeah, if
Very
I go.
cool.
Rick,
See
are
you
you going to
there.
be able to make it? Melissa?
I can only go to a pulp convention.
Okay.
No,
I can't. Oh. Wait, which pulp convention are you going to go to?
Pulp Fest
In Chicago, right?
in August.
Nice.
All right. So, Doug, thank you for having Joe Morey send me this book.
Yeah, sure.
Or maybe Joe made you
course.
do it. I mean, how nice is Joe Morey? He's a
No,
really nice guy.
he's very nice. He's been a pleasure to work with, and
The publisher
and
at
publisher at Weird House.
Yeah.
So yeah, I knew that you were one of the first people I wanted to send one to, and he got right on it.
yeah, thank you. This is really nice. This is you've got 150 signed copies. This is a hardcover. It's gonna be worth some money today, one day too, Pete. Signed by Doug and Wayne, the
And Wayne,
uh-huh,
yeah.
artist.
If only I didn't have like 20 Wayne signatures in my books.
All right.
Ouch,
Yeah,
poor Wayne. He is, it's really funny that I, ended up just out of sheer chance doubling up you guys on an interview, Ed and Doug, because you both got these. I didn't realize again. I didn't remember until tonight when you tweeted that out, Ed, that Wayne illustrated at least one of your books, right?
Yeah, a couple of them. He did all the Merkabah Riders. Yeah, all the interior illustrations for those.
Very cool.
Yeah.
He's a busy man.
Yeah,
Yeah, great. I love his style on the black and white
Yeah.
interiors. Really.
Yeah. So
his colors pop too. His colors are really awesome. Like
Yeah, check
your
this
cover
out.
is great. Yeah, it's awesome.
that's the
Thank you.
interior.
Nice.
That's nice.
Yeah, the end papers. There was an early cover idea that we decided would work better there, and yeah, he's
There's
incredible.
the back, and you've got the poster of
Hey.
the front and back over your.
Yeah,
over your
I
shoulder
kind
there.
of splurged on this one. I just love the wide view of the whole wraparound cover on this. So
I do
Wayne,
too, and I
on
can't
his-
find it online. I was gonna post it,
Oh yeah, all right.
with
Probably-
credit, of course. But
Yeah, I know I put it up on Facebook. It's probably I think it's my like whatever you call the banner you have
Oh,
on
yeah,
your Facebook background or whatever. But yeah, Wayne on his website, obviously he's worked with tons of authors and has some really iconic art up there. But you can order prints of this stuff, and so I asked him for
that's
the
right.
to put up the file for that. So it's actually printed on canvas, which is fantastic. It's through DeviantArt.
Yeah,
I got a Wayne Miller shirt on right now, actually, from his World War Cthulhu
World War
book back in the
Cthulhu,
day. He did all the
Nice.
illustrations. Part of the Kickstarter was shirts and stuff.
really should have invited Wayne
Very cool.
too.
Yeah,
If
might as well.
if you'd been thinking, Pete, you would have told me to do this.
Yeah. If I, hey, but seriously,
We'd
Mike,
still
put
be rescheduling.
that back cover back up
Sure,
because I want to comment on it.
go right ahead. Cthulhu Rising Out of the Sea for those who can't
Right.
see.
So let me say that this is one of the best modern illustrations of Cthulhu I've seen. I'm really tired of the buff Cthulhu,
Yes.
Yeah.
the Adonis Cthulhu or what.
Charles Atlas Cthulhu.
Yeah, exactly. I'm tired
You
of
too can look like this.
it.
Stop kicking sand in our faces.
Right.
Yeah, I like how he's kind of hidden in the mist there, but the details you can catch are pretty
Yeah,
cool and unique.
yeah.
You get the kind of crab or
Yeah.
lobster claw type
Yes.
detailing, which is nice.
This is like the first one I've seen in a while that really makes me happy.
When he was younger, he was very thin. And then he went through the Charles Atlas Cthulhu program.
No.
No, but I agree with you. This is a really good representation. And I think all the better for seeing him through the storm, through the rain.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The idea that he generates his own weather.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. Jeannie, the designer for the jacket, decided at the last minute to just dump the blurbs and other crap that we had lined up for the back, which was a great idea.
You writers and
Very glad-
publishers with your technical
Very
terms.
glad she did that. Yeah. Yeah. Never mind selling the damn thing. Make it look cool. I think that crap will be on the paperback crap. People who have said kind words about my book.
Right now, all these writers are going, fuck you for later in the next book. Okay. Don't even send it to me.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Speaking of the
I'm done.
illustrations, I know. No, that was funny. Are the interior illustrations? It's on Kindle Unlimited, as a matter of fact, too.
Yeah, I forgot. Thank you for mentioning that. Just
Yeah.
this week, it's out on Kindle and paperback too. Is now
Yeah.
available.
Well, are the illustrations in Kindle and paperback interior or no?
I
Or are they
am
just for
pretty
this?
Sure, I'm pretty sure. I don't.
Yeah,
have a
well,
copy
you can
yet
do
of
those
it, anything
interior black
but
and
the
whites
hardcover
for
yet.
Kindle pretty easily
Yeah.
without
Yeah, I
spending
think
a lot
so.
of money.
I think it's in all editions, as I understand it. I should have those soon.
Okay. Well, one of you guys know Wayne. I don't. Tell him we talked about him.
Will do.
Very
Will
positive.
do. It was his birthday this week. Yeah.
That's right. It was. Yeah.
Oh my God! I can't believe you didn't remind me to have him on, Pete.
Yeah, just like here's more Wayne
fault.
Miller for your viewing pleasure.
Oh yeah, that's a good story.
That's really nice.
Yellow there. Yeah, it was awesome.
What you don't know is it's my 15th wedding anniversary yesterday.
Now I know.
Anniversary.
Yes.
The anniversary.
You guys are lucky that I survived. Because
that's like your 10th marriage.
Yeah.
Because you spent all of your money on books recently. So
yes.
The first thing she says to Melissa is, "Oh, your hair looks really nice." Is that new? I'm like, how is this guy divorced 5 times?
I've only been divorced 4 times. I've been married 5 times. You got to get it right.
Okay.
Anyway, go out and get the appropriate gift, for my wife for our wedding anniversary. That has been taking up all my time. Not your stupid podcast.
Hey, well, exactly. It's my stupid podcast has been off the air for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You have no excuse for not getting all this shit done.
COVID, Providence, anniversary, my day job. What's your excuse?
I'm old and sick.
Yeah, that's okay. Never mind.
All right, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What, 12 stories in here, Doug?
Yeah, what are they about, Doug? What are those stories about?
I think they might be Lovecraftian.
What are they about?
Are there any Spectra? Not like any Spectra themed stories?
Yes. Okay. Thanks for asking, Melissa. Yeah,
This is why she's here.
One of the
she knows how to interview people, unlike me.
There we go. I'm glad you at least have one professional in the group.
That's true.
Yeah, so I've made references to the Spectra novels, which for anybody who doesn't know me, Red Equinox is the first title in that trilogy of Lovecraftian horror novels. So I've mentioned the Spectra government agency that investigates weird incursions from other dimensions in some short stories over the years, and there's some of that in here. One was published at the Lovecraft eZine called The Voyager, that features Agent Jason Brooks, who is a main character in the novels.
Yeah,
but it was
aside
story. From
and then you had one other, I think,
published by you. Yeah, the Tracking the Black Book.
Yeah, right.
Where the Necronomicon is. Yeah, well, we can get to that. But
anyway, Spectra,
But Spectra. So aside from the occasional Easter egg reference, I thought it'd be fun when putting a collection together to fill it out with some new stories that feature some of those characters, particularly Becca Phillips, the main character of those books. She's in a story called Time Out of Mind with Brooks. They're reunited there, and that brings in a connection to the Hounds of Tyndalos. And trying to think if there's another Spectra. There are other stories that make connections to some of my other novels that are not Spectra. There's a story called Contact that's connected to my novel His Own Devices, which is a standalone novel outside of the Spectra universe. And a story called The Last Chord ties into my first novel, The Devil of Echo Lake. There's a character, Jake Campbell from Devil of Echo Lake, who makes an appearance in that story about a haunted guitar.
Well,
nice.
Being the professional that I am, I thought it would be a good idea to read these. All kidding aside, of course, I think I've read almost all the others. There's 4 new ones. So basically, there's some reprints from various anthologies that, you'd have to go to a lot of different places, and here you can read them just on one place. And I have to say, this is a really solid collection, Doug.
Thank you, Mike.
Really, every story in here is great.
Thanks. I've never really considered short stories my strongest suit. I've kind of figured it out over the years, I hope. So it probably took about 10 years to have enough of them to put out a collection with a theme. Not everything I write is Lovecraftian, but that's nice to hear. Thanks.
And I noticed, here's another thing that you did that was kind of, I thought, really nice. Story notes and acknowledgments. And you put them at the end here, and you comment on, I think, every story. in here, or at least
Pretty
most
sure.
of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all of them.
Yeah, and that's really really cool. I noticed in Contact, I can't remember in Tracking the Black Book, but Contact and what was the other? Oh, the No Mask, which was a fun one. In a really hopeless kind of way.
Like COVID story.
Yes, well, the endings are ambiguous. Well done, ambiguous. But you're not quite sure what's going to happen, especially not in No Mask. But I thought they were stronger for that ambiguity.
Cool.
Ambiguity.
Thank
sorry.
you. Yeah, I've always been drawn to ambiguity. It's one thing I love about Paul Tremblay's books.
Who?
And short stories give you a nice opportunity to kind of leave the door open. They can feel like the beginning of a longer story that you have to kind of fill in the blanks on. I remember hearing Neil Gaiman discuss the idea that a short story could also be written as the last chapter of a novel that you haven't read. That
I've never heard him say that. That's great.
Brings together. Yeah, it's in his masterclass, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Speaking of Paul, he'll be on this Sunday. So
nice. Got the new book out, Pallbearers. Got to pick that up.
The Pallbearers Club, PALL, not PAUL.
Right.
That would just be egotistical.
He said Stephen Graham Jones wrote it on a whiteboard somewhere that I don't know what they were doing as PAUL when he was writing out the title. I read it.
Perfect.
He was kind enough to send me a copy, and man, is this one unique book. I mean, we'll talk Sunday, and the focus is on you guys right now. But since you mentioned him, he'll be on this Sunday, and Pallbearers Club is, it's just really different. And there are a lot of good books that come out that you can't say they're different. And this is just written in a really unique way. So
yeah, I can't wait to check it out. I really like his whole postmodern approach to stuff. And I hear that there's like a 2-color ink
yes.
in the first printing of this, which I definitely want to snag that version where you get, I guess, sort of annotations, one character commenting. I haven't read it, so I don't want to misstate that, but
I'm pretty sure that would be in every edition, although we'd have to ask Paul that because it makes more sense that way. You have to keep it's one person commenting without giving anything away on the manuscript that she's reading.
From what I understand, the 2-color printing will only be in the first edition.
No shit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get that first edition.
I pick that up.
Paul sent.
I think they're working on.
Paul sent me a PDF, and it had the color, two-tone colors in there. So I just assumed, but I'm gonna buy a print book then, too.
You guys ever see that book that J.J. Abrams released a novel with another author, Douglas something I'm forgetting right now, that was a similar annotations of the people, I think, trading a library book and sort of having a conversation within it. That was pretty inventive.
No, it's a neat idea.
Yeah.
Never ending story, right? Different color print. Man, that takes me back. That's been a long time.
Yeah.
That's been a long time.
I don't think I read that version. They changed the print in Neverending Story. I probably read a reprint or something.
No, this has been 40 years since I read it, but do you guys remember? It's one person. He's reading the book and he's commenting on reading the book or something like that. It's a kid's book, but it kind of sucks you in.
Oh yeah.
Just like Paul's book does. Anyway, enough about Paul.
That guy, he takes enough air. Takes up enough air in the room.
Yeah, that guy.
Paul Tremblay.
If he wasn't so nice.
Him and his pickle vendetta.
The pickle thing again.
There's the pickle Rick, but then there's the pickle Paul.
All right, so this is available on Kindle Unlimited. It's available in paperback now too. Are there any hardbacks left or no?
I believe so. Yeah, and in fact, they might even be running a discount right now.
You have to go to the weird.
Checked.
You have to go to weird.
Weird House. Here it is on the back. Weird House. Yes, weirdhousepress.com. That's all it is.
As far as you know, I did that from memory. As far as you know.
So
So yeah,
Doug,
hardcover direct from them. Yes.
are there any overarching themes to these stories? I know they've been written out over a decade, but
Right. I would say yes, there are. I discussed that a little bit in the notes at the end. There's I think just by default, there are certain themes that I'm drawn to again and again, whether it's in the novels or the short stories, and try to find new ways of approaching some of those things, like the power of music and sound is a big part of the Spectrophiles, and that's present here as well. There's a choir in the title story, which was inspired by these isopod parasites that well, you know all about this sort of thing, Pete, that replace the fish of a tongue. They eat the fish's tongue, and then they replace its tongue.
Yes,
the creepiest freaking thing I've ever heard. Saw that on a nature documentary, and so the women in this small town undergo a similar process, which also alters their voices so that they can sing these hymns at the cultist festival on the beach. Music appears in the last chord as a supernatural element, where a guy, an instruments appraiser, discovers a guitar that belonged to this dead rock star. This is a story that was inspired by Bob Dylan's Stratocaster that he played at the Newport Jazz Festival. I guess years later, it was just in this woman's garage, and she realized that sitting in the case all these years was Dylan's famous Stratocaster, the controversial performance where he played electric. So there was an appraiser who, yeah, right. So I thought that it would be interesting if somebody found a guitar that belonged to a musician who had a way of interfacing with cosmic forces through his music, and that kicking around in this guitar was some unfinished song he had been writing. That's a bit of legend that I have heard over the years, going to music school and playing in bands and stuff. The idea that you buy a used guitar, maybe there's some songs kicking around from the last guy that your fingers will find. I always thought that was kind of intriguing. So that's what happens in this case, and it turns out to unleash apocalyptic forces. So there's Wayne again.
Cool.
Oh, wow.
Nice illo. Cool.
And I guess Wayne's a guitar player too. So he nailed that. I sent him the exact year, Stratocaster, match those details.
He's a big metalhead, right?
I think, yeah, he showed me a photo of his guitar. It was one, pretty angular from what I can recall.
It was an axe, not a guitar.
Was it a warlock?
His axe. That's right. Guitars are for pussies. It was an axe.
Is that what he said?
No. So our overarching theme, to answer Pete's question, would be the trouble we tend to get into by acting like an empire, going around and invading other places, typically the Middle East, and what things might follow us home from such excursions, which I think is a pretty
I noticed that in
Lovecraftian trope. Yeah.
It's like, you Americans brought them here, that sort of thing.
Right.
Speaking of Contact, that story, I can't remember his son's name struck a chord with me, but I couldn't remember why. It's in another story, isn't it?
So the novel, His Own Devices, is about a young boy who, through his obsession with an iPad video game and a YouTube celebrity,
right,
who releases that game, he gets involved in events that at first seem like just an online predator who is also a celebrity is using his power to privately draw kids into something that might be heading toward a terrorist event. But meanwhile, sorry,
Ezra Miller.
I'm not familiar.
Not
with
that bad. The Flash, the actor who's currently going around the world, devastating everything. So.
Okay. I lost touch with that show a while back.
No, it's the movie Flash.
The movie Flash guy. Never mind.
Anyway, not to get too sidetracked into his own devices, but the YouTuber Rainbow Dave may be having a psychotic break. He may be schizophrenic. He may be in touch with supernatural forces that are using him, and he's certainly being influenced because he's an influencer of children. He's being influenced by some kind of maybe private company, maybe covert ops type organization that is using technology to reprogram his brain, and
Right.
and he comes to believe he's in touch with Karanzan, the god of chaos, and this is what informs all of his increasingly dangerous actions with these kids. So my one of my main characters, this boy Gavin Ritter, who gets involved in it all, his dad is deployed in Afghanistan at the time. So we don't really ever know inside the context of the novel what happens to the boy's father in Afghanistan. He goes missing, and there's an ambush. And so this short story gave me an opportunity to show the events on the other side of the world at that time, where in the ambush, Sergeant Matt Ritter ends up he's in a cave that's partially collapsed with an insurgent, and they encounter something in the dark that turns out to have connections not only to the supernatural events going on at home with his family, but with Lovecraftian connections as well. So that probably all sounds terribly confusing to anybody.
No, it's
who
sort of
hasn't read
filling
any
in the
this.
whole, filling in
Yeah.
what happened to the kid's dad in Afghanistan. So
Right. Yeah. And
yeah,
my intention with connected stories like that is usually to try to tell a story that can just be read as a self-contained thing and still have some payoff and be coherent. You don't have to necessarily read the book. Hopefully, if you've read the book, you'll experience the story in a different way that's satisfying also, or maybe it leads you to one of the books.
Is
But,
that god
certainly
of chaos that you mentioned in original creation?
No, the god of chaos in the story called Karanzan is taken from Aleister Crowley John Dee and Edward Kelly by way of Aleister Crowley is the lineage there of actual occult sources that inspired that story. So
now that you said that, I reckon I didn't see it spelled.
Yeah, it's
sort of like Corazin.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it the way John Dee might have, but I guess part of when this is Queen Elizabeth's astrologer, the magician John Dee, he had this sort of con man, maybe crazy man that he was working with, and they thought that they were communicating with angels and transcribing an angelic language that would enable them to understand the secrets of the universe and the mind of God and all this. But along the way, there's also this reference to this demonic force, Karanzan, and I found that very intriguing as a not so typical demon to work with for a modern supernatural horror story, because so often we get things that are a little tied to the early Christian belief systems and not so relevant to what I think of as the forces driving the world we live in. Is certainly chaos is the one that I think is characteristic of these, at least the past decade. So I got to play with some things related to the 2016 election. The book takes place shortly before that, and the idea that there are groups trying to invoke chaos to create the kinds of upheavals that would eventually lead to the pandemic. I got to kind of foreshadow some of that stuff in hindsight, which was fun.
Well, speaking of the pandemic, you have one pandemic story in here, and I, at first, I mean, you're such a great writer. I mean, I've known that for years, obviously, and at first my mind rebelled, several weeks ago, and I was like, I can interview Doug without reading that one, so I was like, oh, we're not past the pandemic, but we're we got this new strain, so now if you're over 50, you need to get a new vaccine. So it's trying to come back, obviously. Never really went away, but it's really, a lot
Yeah.
better situation than it was during 2020 and 2021. That's what I'm trying to say.
Big time.
And, you know, it's like, do I want to go back there in my mind? And I'm like, try to be a professional, read the story. And I'm glad I did.
I hear you, man. There sometimes
Yeah.
I'm just not, my brain is just not up for, I'm going to entertain myself with something that I've had enough of in the real world. I hear you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it is a great story. It's called No Mask again. And then I'm going to read your short comments at the end about this story. One of the 4 new stories I wrote to complete this collection during the long, dark winter of 2020 to 2021. Here we have only my only COVID-19 story. All right, let me pause there. When I read this, what you wrote about the story here, I distinctly, my mind went right back to Joe Biden saying this in the, when he was debating Trump for the election. And he said something to the effect, we're about to enter a really long, dark winter with COVID. And I thought he said it really well, that it was this scary period coming up. Not that the summer hadn't been scary, but now winter,
Right.
And
Yeah, we had a hell of a peak in the winter.
yeah, and your comments brought me back to what he said and to that time period. And so, I think I read elsewhere that you were, no, I just read it that so during COVID, bring me back to your state of mind, and you're writing some stories as you're locked in with the rest of us.
Sure. Yeah, my wife and I work at home to begin with. We have a dog daycare as the day job. I've been doing that for 20 years now. So
that's really cool.
It ended up being pretty compatible with, we were like, oh, I guess social distancing is what we do anyway.
Right.
We hang out with dogs, and dogs apparently can't catch this. So we didn't have to leave the house and go work with other humans in some shared space, which was good. It was reassuring. But we did have to close our business briefly, and we lost a lot of business from people didn't need to take their dog to daycare anymore if they're working at home like everyone
Right.
was. Our son did all of 7th grade remote, and fortunately that worked well for him. I guess he's also an introvert. But
a lot of people,
he's a
a
good
lot
writer.
of kids
He'd make a
it
good
didn't
writer.
work well for, though, too.
I know.
As
Yeah,
a
mine-
teacher.
Mine, did not.
My
a lot
kids.
of
My son told me, he's
Very hard
20,
for
he
a
told
lot.
me yesterday, I feel 17. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, it's just like with COVID for 2 years, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but it's like this big pause.
Yeah.
where It just
Yeah, totally.
paused. So
Right.
anyway,
Yeah, my
Absolutely,
kids were
especially
kind of
at that age. I can't
arrested,
imagine trying to,
yeah,
Yeah.
arrested development.
They're-
yeah, socially,
Yeah,
socially,
they're
that's tough at that
socialization.
age.
Yeah.
I like that word. Arrested seems very appropriate.
Yes. Yeah. So
But
anyway,
yeah. Anyway, it's interesting
go
because
ahead, Melissa,
some people
sorry.
did really well and some people did really bad. I feel like it would just made people slide both ways. There seemed like
Right.
In-
not really a
in
middle
my
ground.
own- Yeah.
Yeah.
In my own
Yeah.
family, my daughter did awesome, and my son was just
Yeah.
left behind. He was totally lost.
I'm a homebody person anyway, so it was like, oh, now I don't even have to go to the office. I could just work from home.
Yeah,
That's
I
great.
was okay with that too.
I was fine. Yeah.
It was
But-
not.
Yeah,
good for other
I felt a
people.
little guilty about that fact that in a
didn't-
lot of ways it suited me. My
Yeah.
personality
Yeah,
just
I had the
felt like,
same thing.
okay, cool. I don't have to go out and try to be social.
It was really hard on
and-
my wife
and I
as
can-
a
I get
teacher,
some work
though.
done.
Not just the students, but how hard was it on the teachers to do this?
Oh yeah.
And then when they went back physically, I mean, I'm getting sidetracked, but she's teaching kids in a mask and making all of them wear masks, and so
But
So-
the parents were like not always
yeah,
complying and vaccinating the kids, and kids had to keep pausing
Yep.
school and leaving. And oh my gosh, it was awful when it first
Yeah.
came back and stuff.
so it's this winter, this long dark winter, and you're writing these stories. Take us back to just for a minute, and then we'll maybe.
Yeah, so I mean, it was good to have a book to be working on. It wasn't as daunting as a novel, I guess, because a lot of it, when I had connected with Joe Mori at Weird House about doing a collection, it's kind of nice, as I'm sure Pete knows, that starting a project that's mostly written, that's feels a little more manageable at a time when it was kind of hard to focus. Probably took me longer than I expected to write some of these are kind of novella length, the newer stories. So Joe was very patient about that. And I guess it was good to have something to focus on, even though there is one story where COVID does creep in. It would have been weird, I think, not to write anything related to it after living through that. Like we all did, wondering, is this, when's this going to end? When's this going to change? Is it ever going to be normal again? But I think, we're lucky to have creative outlets for processing that stuff, because I think we all have the same anxieties at times like that. At least if you can turn it into a story, it kind of lets you feel like you have a little control,
Right.
Yeah. You don't.
Yeah.
Doug, you mentioned creative outlets, and I'm sitting here looking at you mentioned that, it makes me think the one thing that's happening really differently with this pandemic is that we're able to see in real time what's going on around the world.
Yeah.
And not only the tragedies that are happening, but also the successes. So we're able to see right away what has worked and what hasn't. That gave me some sense of empowerment, that you could look at. I mean, it was scary as hell too. You'd look at Italy, but right before it hit us, and I thought, oh my God, we're so screwed. And I don't have a lot of faith that we're going to, act smart and use that advance warning that we had. But yeah, there was also some hope of some kind of global solidarity for a minute there, and that didn't seem to last. I'd look at photos of women in India wearing masks, trying to buy their food and carry their kids around through just the daily stuff we all do, and doing it in their own way, trying to just be safe. And I thought, God, this is a moment when we can all see ourselves. We can all see our own daily fears and struggles in people in far-flung corners of the globe. So that should bring us together. That should make us work together on something for once. And
it made me think of
a whole lot of that.
Ronald Reagan speech. Remember when he suddenly went into, I sometimes think if there was a threat from beyond, threat from outside of Earth, how we'd all, stand together and work against it and everything, and that might be actually good for us. Not so sure after COVID that the humans would do that.
That's the funny thing is, in the middle of COVID, the New York Times drops like, oh yeah, and by the way, there are UFOs, and we're all like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, whatever.
What's next?
Yeah, where did that story go? I mean, that was really interesting.
Yeah.
The government just comes out and says, yeah, that's right. We're watching that.
They're like, great, they're distracted. Let's put all this information out there. Yeah, there's UFOs. Right. Yeah, we've discovered aliens. It's just we have this thing going on with that, but go pay attention to COVID.
So it's called Something in the Water by Douglas Wynne, Wynne. If you're just listening to this, you can't see the cover. Beautiful cover, interior illustrations by Wayne Miller, great stories. And, if you haven't read Doug's work, this latest one really it's a great place to start. It's a great Lovecraftian / weird / horror collection. So, maybe check that out and then move on to his novels. That might be a good place to start if you haven't read them.
Douglas Wynne primer.
That's right.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly right.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah. So Ed, you've been patient with me too while I've been sick the last few weeks. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem. It's worth the wait.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, you're right. Melissa's here. So
that's always what I said about Red Lobster, and yet it never sort of worked out.
Red Lobster is not worth the wait.
No, thanks, not
Maybe
Red
those
Lobster.
cheesy muffin things.
I actually regret not having Bridget was busy tonight because of
I think it's a bummer.
Yeah, well, I only say that in just retrospect, thinking of Doug as a musician and writer, and the comments that Bridget could have come up with that none of the rest of us would
Yeah.
have thought of, but that's okay. Pete, you have some questions for Ed?
Do I have some questions
You're
for
in charge
Ed?
now. Yeah.
Oh, jeez, Louise. So Ed, you and I don't. Well, we sort of go back a
Hate
long
each other.
ways, but we don't really go back a
No,
long
not at
way.
all.
I mean, we've
been in so many books together.
Right, but we
Yeah.
don't hardly ever talk.
No, never. I'm
So-
such an introvert. Yeah.
Pete
I got all these
doesn't bring
kids to
out
worry
flowers
about.
anymore.
Yeah.
No.
And you did the whole Zora Neale Hurston stuff. I've done a couple stories about the Great Migration
Mhm.
from
From the South, yeah.
from the South to the Northeast.
Okay.
We're hitting a lot of the same beats.
Yeah, we're in each other's orbit. Yeah, for sure.
And we just don't ever mesh socially.
No,
And
I don't know why.
And
It's
I don't
probably
know
me.
why. No,
It's probably me.
First of all, where
It's
do you
not
live?
you, it's me.
I'm in California. I live in.
Okay, so I'm in Florida. So first of all,
we're on
there's
opposite ends.
You were opposite ends, and
Mm.
we're never gonna click.
It's too many hours apart. I mean,
Yeah.
what time is it there in California now? Oh, wait, it's early. It's late
Yeah, it's
for us.
6:50 now. It's 6:50.
Yeah, see, I'm
like
ready
dinner
for
time.
bed.
Yeah.
So there's that. So anyway, so I know.
Are you going to be at a Necronomicon though?
I am. So let's get drunk.
Well, yeah. Maybe I'll see you there. Well,
All right.
I'll definitely see you there if I'm there for sure.
All right, hunt me down,
I will.
and when I say who, you slap me around a little bit.
I'll shove a book. I'll slap you with a book. Ah!
Yes. Actually, I have a whole bunch of stuff I'd probably get you to sign. But you sign stuff for you. I bought books from you.
Yeah, we have talked.
We just
Yeah,
don't. Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Anyway, enough of the. So, MERKABAH Rider, or how do you say it? You say it.
I say MERKABAH. I think
Okay.
MERKABAH's the right way, but I've always said it that way. So
Okay.
whenever people ask me, I say that.
Zora Neale Hurston.
Yeah,
Okay.
Rainbringer. Yeah.
Yeah, Rainbringer, and what's the new one?
That's the latest one. Oh, I did Conquer, which is not Lovecraftian, but it's
Okay.
it's about it's kind of like Doctor Strange meets or Constantine meets Shaft. I call it. It's a cult detective in 1970s Harlem. So.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're running this gamut of minority horror, right?
I do kind of tend towards that stuff. Yeah, I like learning as I write. I love to explore other cultures and that kind of thing. And yeah, I do kind of tend towards that stuff. Yeah, for sure.
So, what do you want to? Okay, so I want to talk about all three of those, and whatever else you want to talk about. But I do. What sort of draws you to that non-standard Lovecraftian hero?
I think it's just untouched ground. With MERKABAH Rider, the whole kind of thing just kind of sprang from me living in a Orthodox neighborhood when I first moved out here to California, and seeing the guys walking to temple and stuff, and in the hats and the reckle coats and all that stuff, and just wondering what's that about, and started reading about it, and then I think I started seeing that. That kind of perspective had not been touched too much in terms of genre fiction, Judaic. You would get golems popping up all the time and stuff, but
Right.
what else was there? I was like, there's got to be something else. And when I started digging into it, there's just so much wealth of folklore there and everything, and a lot of it weirdly started to gel with Lovecraftiana and stuff, because Kabbalah and study and everything, they have this whole taboo against studying what occurred, what existed before God created the universe, and everything is forbidden and all that. And there's a lot of talk about creatures of chaos. There are talk about things of chaos that were like the Sumerians talk about, things of chaos that were God kind of rested to create the universe and all that kind of stuff and everything.
Yeah, it's
there
really
was,
fascinating
I think something
stuff.
about a water demon called Rahav that God slew and cast into the ocean, and whose smell is what permeates the ocean now, his rotting corpse and all this. And, so there was just a lot of neat,
It's really
little
fascinating stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of neat little
Very
stuff
cool.
that that I could pick through and everything. And
Excuse me, I stepped away for a second, but I just want to say you're very right about this being so very untapped, and I'm glad that's starting to change.
I haven't talked about that with the big book of Jewish horror.
Exactly.
Yes.
You just took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, I wanted to mention
that's
that.
A great. I talked to those guys. They're awesome. Yeah, and they all talk. They all kind of lament the fact that it's hard for them to get Judaic horror and folklore and stuff like out there. Like, and
you're talking about Schlossenberg, right? Those guys.
Yeah.
Is it the Jewish Book of Horror or the Big Jewish Book of Horror? I can't remember.
I think it's the Big Jewish Book of Horror. Right?
Anyway, people should check that out. But
yeah,
go
definitely.
on. Yeah.
And they kind of lament that that there are like gatekeepers keeping their stories from being told, or they're just they're not able to sell people on their stuff. And I don't get it, because I mean it's fascinating stuff, and it's really really untapped, like you said. I mean, you get Catholic horror all the time. You get like Protestant kind of Christian horror and stuff like that. And there's all this great Jewish exorcism stories and stuff, and some of those are starting to come out. Like, they're starting to have movies. Like there was one about a Shomer recently. The guy who's paid to like.
I've watched that movie twice. It's so good.
I love that. Really, it was great.
What's that called again?
I don't remember the name.
The Vigil.
The Vigil.
The Vigil. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So that stuff's starting to like come out now and everything, and I'm really pleased because it's awesome.
So I watched that movie, and then the week after, I was called by Brian Sammons, and he said, "We're short a story. You have 5,000 words in the weekend." So I wrote a Jewish reanimator story.
Nice.
Where somebody has to sit Shiva, but they call somebody because the body has vanished.
For anyone impressed by this, if it wasn't Pete Rawlik, you should be. But Pete does this all the time. It's I need a story about frightening napkins that turn Lovecraftian. Can you get that before me by tomorrow? I'll be like, sure. And it'll be good.
That sounds like a Brian
you minimize this.
People know who to call.
Huh? What? No, I'm not minimizing. I'm saying it's really cool. And they're good.
You will get. Well, I don't know about that. You will get your words.
Oh, I do.
I do.
Good.
I'm not making fun of him, Melissa. I'm complimenting him.
Do you need a story, 5,000 words about a haunted napkin?
You know what? I'm just trying to think of something that makes absolutely no sense, that people go, "That's stupid," and then 5 minutes later call me back and go, "You know what? I can come up with a story about that."
When you say that takes us right to Ed. Let's talk about the Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like you said, no from the beginning. As soon as they mentioned it,
napkins of madness.
Such a dumb idea. And then I was like, God, you know what? I read Milne to like all my kids in utero, honestly. Like from the time that my wife was pregnant, I would read like Milne to them and everything. And I kind of had a tradition of when they were born reading the last chapter and stuff. So I was like, I really want to like try something. And I ended up doing and I touched a little bit on, I culled a little bit from Dao Pu actually and everything, because I wanted to kind of picture Christopher Robin, the adult Christopher Robin had a lot of issues with his father's kind of exploiting his the childhood kind of imaginary adventures that they had together, walking in the woods and stuff. And once it all sold and he became popular and he became known as Christopher Robin, the character in the book, he had like a hellish time at like boarding school as he was in his adolescent years and all kinds of stuff. And like he tried to divest himself of the whole like legacy and everything, and went off to war and tried to just kind of like divorce himself from being the Christopher Robin of the books and everything. And so my story I set upon was this idea that Christopher Robin the bookseller, who he really was a bookseller, kind of comes across this forbidden book that somebody tells him, wills to him and tells him, don't sell this, no matter whoever comes looking for this is going to be up to no good, So somebody does come and asks about it, sees it on the shelf, he warns the guy off, and then the next night there's a break-in at the store and the book is gone. So he goes looking for it, and he interrupts this guy in the middle of this summoning spell or something, and this kind of beast like comes forth and touches his third eye, and he immediately regresses into the Dreamlands, which he and his father, the precinct of the Dreamlands that he and his father created through the Winnie the Pooh stories and everything. And he actually, his personality is fragmented
The
into
100
the
Acre
various,
Woods Dreamlands
yeah,
kind of thing.
the 100
Oh,
Acre
wow.
That's
Woods.
pretty cool, actually.
Very
That
That's
is
a cool
So
idea.
like he becomes, at first he's Piglet running scared with this thing chasing him, not knowing what's going on. And then he kind of meets Eeyore, and he meets all the characters and slowly starts reassembling his personality and everything until he finally comes to Pooh, who's the simplest one, and who always has all the answers. And the answer, of course, that Pooh has is like, well, I don't have the answers. Let's ask Christopher Robin. So it's just kind of brings them back together.
What Heffalump?
Yeah,
Was there a
yeah, that's the
Heffalump in
story.
there?
Yeah, that was the story, actually.
Yeah.
It was called Head Like a Jar because, Pooh sticks his head in the jar and gets caught, and Piglet thinks he's a heffalump in the one story and everything.
There's
Right.
probably some Taoist lesson in there, Ed, that your first reaction is, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. How am I going to write this? And you end up doing something profoundly personal and deep and meaningful with it for Christopher Robin.
It's one of the best things I've written.
and
I
you.
honestly think I was really
That's
pleased
fantastic.
with the outcome of it. Yeah.
Maybe a year ago, when it came into the public domain, Winnie the Pooh. A few people tweeted, H.P. Lovecraft and Winnie the Pooh. They're now both in the public domain. Do what you want with this, and a lot of really funny replies. And then Neil Baker actually edits and publishes this book, and
he took it. Yeah. That's the same way Bond Unknown started. He did like, hey, let's do James Bond's in the public domain in Canada where he's located. Let's mix him with Lovecraft. And me and Willie, I'm gonna murder his last name because I've never said it out loud. Is it Meekley or Mikely?
It's Meekle.
Meekle. Me and Willie Meekle, he tapped us for Bond Unknown, and we did like these like Cthulhu Bond stories. It started the exact same way as Call of Cthulhu. Yeah, same way.
And he asked me to do that too, and that one I said no to, and I just couldn't do it. It just because it's only in public domain in Canada.
Right.
Yeah, it was it came and went. Nobody read it because it was only in Canada and stuff. But
you can get a Kindle in the United States.
Yes, now it's now he's got it on Amazon for some reason. I don't know why it's back all of a sudden, because I was selling copies on eBay for a while, and I would just watch them go up in price and stuff, and be like, "Oh, I could do this," Yeah, that's fine.
Well, Kim Smeltzer on the whole napkins thing, she has a great title for us: "Napkins of Madness."
I love it. Can someone please write this story?
Get on it, Pete. Pete's the guy.
Yeah, here's an anthology. Neil, are you listening?
There's a Grail story about by Neil Gaiman, where this little old woman, she goes to the thrift store and she buys the Holy Grail, and she takes it home and she polishes it and she puts it on her mantelpiece, and then all the knights just come visit her, try to get it back.
Remember that one? I can't come up with the title, but that's in Smoke and Mirrors, I think.
Yeah. I think it's Chivalry.
Might be
fun.
But anyway, I've always had this idea to write a story called based on a similar idea, where some woman goes and she, instead of buying the Holy Grail, she buys the Shroud of Turin, and she uses it to make a Halloween scarecrow. And just
she doesn't cut eyes in it and make a ghost.
Yeah, and things just go downhill.
That was my first thought.
It's but yeah, the napkins of madness.
Napkins of Madness. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, perfect.
Doug, if she wears the Shroud of Turin as a ghost costume and then dishes out Halloween candy, it'd be great if she just keeps pulling out 4 loaves and 2 fishes and handing it to all the kids.
See, you can run with this.
Bottomless basket.
Gross.
That's perfect.
I wanted Kit Kats.
When I stepped away, did you talk about High Plains Drifter?
We're working on it. We're getting there.
Yeah, we sort of just talked about.
God, you're so touchy.
All right, so get back.
So,
let's.
I think we'll cover
is there
MERKABAH Rider.
actually a Pooh Cthulhu like anthology?
Yeah, we're not
What's
saying
it, what's it called again?
The Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah,
Call of Cthulhu.
It's truly that is a thing that exists. Because I just looked. I didn't see it. I didn't see it on Amazon. So,
if you go to Lovecraft eZine, eZine. I've got it on the sidebar. LovecraftEZine.com.
It's hilarious.
If you scroll down like on the left and look the third ad down, third sponsor down.
Ed, I will tell you what happened. So just for giggles, I start writing the story.
It's on Kindle Unlimited.
And I get to the point where Pooh gets to Piglet's house. And the sign is Trespassers Will. And Lovecraft is always about genealogy.
Yeah, his grandfather.
So who is Piglet's ancestor?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it's Will Hodgson.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good.
And that just nailed it for me right there. William Hope Hodgson. Sure, yeah. I can do that. I can work with that.
It's funny how that works, right? You just kind of tap at it a little bit, and then all of a sudden it just starts taking form and everything, and you're like, suddenly I'm excited by this dumb idea,
It's good. It's not
the coolest
napkins
thing,
of madness good, but it's good.
When that happens, that's the coolest thing.
No napkins of madness.
What is it, Doug?
I was just thinking that's the coolest thing when you find the story in the story. It's like it can be intimidating when you start thinking, oh, I can't write because I don't have an idea. And you have some idea to start, but it seems to me that the ideas come from the writing. The inspiration comes from doing the work, not the other way around. Is more often than not what I have.
Somebody asked Neil Gaiman, quick, tell me how to plot a story. And he said, like, you write it, and then you sit down and you rewrite it, and you make it look like you knew what you were doing from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Writing is rewriting, and it's a good thing that nobody sees the first draft. They just see the final draft.
Yeah.
All
right. So you want to talk about High Plains Drifter?
No, I just want to listen.
MERKABAH Rider. And
High Plains Drifter was the first title. Yeah, High Plains, like PLANES. That's kind of the joke of it. He's a Hasidic gunslinger who travels the Old West kind of. And the idea is he's part of this mystic sect of ecstatics who kind of explore the upper reaches of heaven. MERKABAH riders use MERKABAH mysticism to kind of create an etheric chariot around themselves, and like Elijah, and travel up to the seven heavens and kind of explore each of the hekalots or palaces where angels and various ministers of heaven preserve us exist and stuff. And the idea is that the guy who teaches him is kind of a renegade instructor who kind of uses all these what he calls alternative paths to God and everything, which is all his other, his peers all kind of reject and everything. And in the end, he is turned away from actually sitting in the throne. You descend upon the throne of God. You sit in the presence of God and everything. And so he's kind of cast out and kind of wanders the West then, because it turns out that these alternative paths to God was a way for his master, Adon, he's called, to kind of corrupt him and kind of use him as an instrument to kind of help bring forth the old ones and stuff. And he's going around, he kills the rest of the sect, not the MERKABAH rider, but Adon does. I almost blew a big secret of the thing. And so he travels around trying to track this guy down in sort of like a kung fu kind of way. I took a big inspiration from the old 70s show Kung Fu, where he's looking for his brother, but in this case, he's looking for his renegade teacher and stuff. And gradually he starts to find that what he thought the universe consisted of through his, Judaic teaching and everything is not at all what it is. And like nibbling on the fringes of God's creation are the old ones, kind of like coming into this universe and everything. And God is actually kind of an anomaly in a chaotic universe.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, Ed, if you don't mind the interruption.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe it's a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What, in your opinion, and everybody here, but Ed first, does Jewish mythology and like what you were just describing and writing about mesh with Gnosticism?
I think it does. In fact, I have Enoch as a character in the book at one point and everything.
Yeah.
At one point, to get answers on this big mystical, metaphysical conspiracy that's going on, the writer and one of his compatriots descend into hell to question Lucifer and stuff, and they meet the various angels that are there that are down there, because in Jewish thought, in old Jewish thought, Lucifer is not so much evil as he is employed by God to kind of test mankind and everything. And in a Lovecraftian sense, the idea is that the souls of man are fired in the bowels of hell and everything, because you go to hell when you die in old Judaic folklore and everything, but you only spend 12 months there to get like everything right and everything. And so your soul is kind of fired in the crucible of mortal life, and then again afterwards remade in hell to kind of create this kind of buffer between the primordial matter universe of chaos where the old ones exist and everything, and this kind of weird etheric material amalgamation that God has kind of created and stuff. So it's kind of like
so fascinating.
So it's kind of like the writer is kind of faced with he's this man of faith who finds his faith completely upheaved, and then has to decide, is the universe, which he now knows it to be, is it still worth preserving? Is it still worth fighting for?
Yeah.
So that's like the whole theme of the books and everything. It's a 4-book series.
What you said about the devil, Satan, if you read the book of Job, it really doesn't sound like God and the devil are pissed at each other. They're basically laying bets on things, and it does exactly sound like God's like, okay, this is my son that I've employed to, test everybody. Why don't you go test who he says is the best guy there? But if you take away everything, he'll curse you.
Yeah.
God's the owner, and he's like slumming it with like the floor manager.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
One of his pit bosses or something.
Yeah.
But, and to take this a little bit more into popular culture and supernatural, when Chuck goes evil, I don't know if you've seen that series, but Chuck is God, and he kind of doesn't much go evil, as revealed that he's just this, uncaring guy who is, his creations entertain him. Mm-hmm. And they really wrapped it up very nicely. But another alternate I was hoping for was that, a Gnosticism theme where, he wasn't the ultimate.
There's a demiurge or something.
Right, and he maybe even wasn't even aware of it until he, is about to destroy everything. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, I diverge. I just find all of that really fascinating, and I was wondering if I was the only one that thought that Jewish mythology and Gnosticism merged in some way or could mesh in some way.
Well, Richard Tierney wrote stories that actually did that.
Yeah, was it?
That's true.
Is it Simon of? Did he write Simon of Geta? Or? Yeah.
I haven't read Tierney
very
in a long
complex.
time.
Look at the early Robert Bloch. There were faint hints of it. There was some, the Kabbalah of Sabbath books, and that sounds like a connection to Jewish mythology.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was trying to sneak it in. Yeah. Did he spell it with a Q?
Sometimes Kabbalah is with a Q, sometimes with a C.
Yeah, but
how do you
like magic with a K or something?
Yeah, trying to transliterate the Hebrew letters into English.
What, Rick? Sorry.
Pick. But Ed, that sounds like a really interesting cosmology you have there.
I'm sorry, Douglas.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't hear what Rick said. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Rick.
Okay, and he spoke Kabbalah, Cabala.
Oh, yeah, that's
okay. Right. Yeah, Doug, it is really fascinating.
So sometimes they use a K too. Sometimes it's like, take your pick. But Ed, did you have to plan out the cosmology before writing the entire series? It's just sounds like a really interesting harmony of ideas that should really be opposed. The idea that you can reconcile I love what you said about that God is this anomaly in a chaotic universe, right? But it can still coexist in there, right? Anything creative is kind of making order out of the chaos, right? I love that idea.
Yes.
Yeah, the cosmology kind of I want to say I went in with a plan like that and everything, but honestly, I just wanted to write like a Jewish Solomon Kane. That was my concept, like it's a Jewish Solomon Kane in the Old West mixed with Kung Fu and everything. And I started kind of going deep. They started out as just like novellas, stories that were not going to be connected and everything. And then I slowly started like delving more and more into it. And I want to say the elements just started coming to me, like in ways that were like just gelled, and I didn't fully expect it, because I wasn't aware, I'm born like, I was raised Roman Catholic and everything, so I'm not aware of like Judaism and everything, but just in the reading, it slowly started to come together. And I started getting into Lovecraft around, like seriously, around the same time I started reading about Judaic folklore and stuff. So it was actually, I started out with just wanting to do Judaic folklore, and Lovecraft kind of wended his way into the cosmology and everything, because I needed something. I wanted something, because like I said, like Lucifer was not really an adversary. They call him the adversary, but he's mainly just there to test man and everything. So he wasn't really going to be the big bad of the story. There had to be something worse, you know? And so it was actually, it's actually kind of God and the devil against the forces of Lovecraft, because they're trying to preserve their order that they have, you know, while they're constantly being weathered away by these outside incursions and stuff.
I don't think enough people know about this character and these series of stories. And
I don't either. Thank you.
Well, I just hope that in some small way, you know, on the podcast here, we could maybe change that a little bit. Where would you recommend someone who's listening to this, they're fascinated, where should they start with MERKABAH, right? Or
start with the first book. High Plains Drifter is the first, and Mensch with No Name is the second, and it just goes on from there.
Okay.
There's a 4-book series. I'm actually working on nebulously, once I finish, I'm working on a Conquer sequel right now, but down the road there's going to be a kind of a prequel story, a prequel collection of novellas set kind of like MERKABAH Rider, the early years or something. It's called Alias MERKABAH Rider, and he's like in the Civil War, and it's kind of like, you know, when he's slowly coming to grips with, because in the story he perceives, while he's doing his extraplanar visions and things, he kind of has a vision that the Civil War that's breaking out at the time is kind of as above, so below. You know, it's being mirrored in heaven. There's some kind of conflict in heaven that's being mirrored on Earth between the North and the South and everything. So he joins the Civil War against the you know, advice of his like teachers and things. So it's kind of going to be all about that, where he's in the Civil War, and he's kind of abandoned his faith at this point in his life and everything, and it's kind of how he kind of starts coming back to it and everything.
Not to beat a dead horse, but back to the devil for just a second. You guys have mentioned Neil Gaiman a lot tonight. Have you guys read Murder Mysteries?
Yeah, that's a great. So Murder Mysteries is about an angel who is murdered.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And as you're reading this, sorry, Pete.
Go ahead.
As you're reading this story, remember just one thing. It's not called Murder Mystery. It's called Murder Mysteries, plural. Anyway, and if you think about the ending after a while, you'll get it, or maybe you'll get it right away, but it's really, really cool. What were you saying, Pete? I'm sorry.
No, it's just, it's about an angel that is murdered in the Silver City in heaven, and, you know, and another angel is tasked with solving the murder. And
that's cool.
You know,
sounds good.
That is not. Go ahead.
Is that in a recent collection? I'm not familiar with it.
Oh, no, that's a whole story. Well, I'll tell you one thing, too. It's a really, really, everybody knows I love audio drama, and you should read the story, but it's also a really great audio drama starring Brian Dennehy. Thank you, Rick.
Yeah. And Brian Dennehy, cool.
And I forget his name right now, but the guy with the glasses on Evil, the evil guy, and he was in Person of Interest. What's his name, Pete?
Michael Emerson.
Sorry?
Michael Emerson.
Yeah. It's the two of them mainly. There's a couple of actors, and what happens in the story is he's this protagonist. He's stuck in LA because it's snowing in England, and he can't get a plane back for a while, so he's just aimlessly waiting at his hotel. And one night, this guy comes up to him and asks him, can he have a cigarette? And he offers him and a match. And he offers to pay for it by telling him a story. So it's just a really neat story within a story.
Yeah, I think it's in Angels and Visitations.
Okay.
From Dreamhaven.
Check it out.
Is it a novella or a short? Or?
It's a short story.
Yeah.
I think it was also turned into a really good one-issue comic book.
I don't.
Yeah, I
Is,
was
are you
looking.
sure
I
it's
saw
in
it
that?
has a graphic novel.
Are you sure it's in that collection?
No, but I could be wrong.
I could be wrong too. I just want to. It's such a great story that I want to.
Anyway, getting back to Ed. So we talked about Merkabah. What else do you want to talk about? Because we're running out of time.
I would love to talk about Rainbringer because that's what's bringing me to Necronomicon for my first time. I've never been there, so I'm really excited to be on a panel there.
Exciting.
Yeah,
we got to.
So Rainbringer is about Zora Neale Hurston.
Zora Neale Hurston, the Harlem Renaissance. She was a early Harlem Renaissance writer and ethnologist. She traveled all over the South, Black woman, all alone, with a 44, kind of getting a loaded 44, collecting stories from like turpentine camps and logging mills and all kinds of stuff. Just kind of collecting Black folklore of the period at a time when they were kind of when the African American elite of the Harlem Renaissance were kind of eschewing that stuff because they wanted to kind of leave that stuff behind because they thought it was kind of provincial and they wanted to kind of they thought it was keeping their people from kind of taking their place in the larger world stage, respect and all that kind of stuff. So she was not always completely popular and everything, and with the other intelligentsia, and but she has a fascinating voice of her own and just an amazing life. She traveled to Honduras looking for the lost city of the monkey god. She went to Haiti and observed voodoo, photographed a zombie for the first time, like a living zombie and all that. And there's a novella at the heart of Rainbringer, which has her as an acting coach. It's called King Yeller, and she's an acting coach for Orson Welles and John Houseman when they're doing an all-black production of Macbeth in Harlem at the theater, which actually happened and everything. But in my story, this film critic this racist film critic who doesn't want this play to succeed and is very anti-New Deal and everything because the whole thing was sponsored through the New Deal and everything. Kind of slips Wells a copy of The King in Yellow to kind of get him obsessed over this play and have him abandon what he wants to do and everything, and Zora has to kind of sniff it out. I reimagined her as a kind of Lovecraftian detective. I just kind of took the blank spots of her life, of which there were many, because she told a lot of like tall tales about her own life, changed her age according to what man she was like trying to woo at the time and stuff, or what school she wanted to get into. So she actually did undergo like hoodoo rituals and initiations in New Orleans under Luke Turner, this two-headed doctor at the time. And it's all documented how she laid like for 3 days naked under a snakeskin and heard all these voices and stuff. And so I kind of equated the snakeskin ritual with the yig and created this kind of conceit that Yig kind of calls on her throughout her life to kind of oppose various factions of the old ones at various times and stuff. She besides opposing the King in Yellow, she goes beyond the Black Arcade was the first story that I wrote with her and everything. It was for Golden Goblin Press. It was collected in there. And she kind of follows up on the ritual that the cops broke up in Call of Cthulhu in the swamp, and everything. And in this case, it's like she finds out that the ritual that they were enacting all the time that the cops broke up was keeping something deeper in the bayou, like at bay. So then she has to go face it and kind of like, face it down and everything. And the Ring of Set appears in there because I'm a Hugh Howard fan and all that. And so that's Rainbringer. It's interesting to me the amount of people that come to me that don't realize she was a real person in the first place. Like they think I just made her up or something. And that's.
I know her from Their Eyes Were Watching God.
She's a prize-winning novelist there. Their Eyes Were Watching God and Jonas Gordvine. And I encountered her in college in a creative writing course and just fell in love with her way of writing and everything. She wrote in the vernacular, so it's kind of a tough read at first, but it kind of harkens back. Yeah, it harkens back to like the old like Brer Rabbit stories almost. Like it's very deep South kind of African American speech and everything. And that was part of the thing again that made her unpopular with her more cultured peers. Like she was friends with Langston Hughes, and they would argue back and forth. County Cullen, all those guys. But yeah, I don't know. I was really excited. It was just another person. It's a character it's a real person that I just love personally. Like I really admire her and stuff, and it was fun to kind of just, I don't know. I hope it's perceived, like I said and I think in the afterward, I just hope it's perceived as a loving tribute, because that's what it is. To just kind of cast her as an adventuress and stuff. She was already an adventuress. I just kind of spiced it up with the tentacles and such.
Well, thanks, Ed. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Doug, for being here.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thank
having
you.
me.
Thanks so much. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys. A little
thanks,
footnote. I pulled
Yeah.
the Neil Gaiman guide to Neil Gaiman here by Christopher Golden and Company. And you're right. It is the Murder Mysteries appears in Angels and Visitations, also in Smoke and
Right.
Mirrors.
I was about to say,
So
Pete and I were both right.
It's in two
You
of his
got it.
collections, yeah. And the audio adaptation with Brian Dennehy is in something called Two Plays for Voices.
It's
And
on
then there's the
Audible. I just
Dark Horse comic.
posted the link in, if you're watching on YouTube, in the later in the chat, and it's like $8, and it's worth. Yeah, it's worth much more than that. It's such a great one.
I love Brian Dennehy. It's
Cool.
really
Yeah.
cool.
He plays Rockwell.
Don't say it.
Don't. Okay, sorry. You find
So-
out early. I know.
Well, wait, I was going to, so going back to Call of Cthulhu really quickly.
Yeah.
No, sure.
I read an article recently that John Pertwee, who was one of the original Doctor Who, like the third Doctor,
Yeah, the Third Doctor.
he, as a kid, used to play with Christopher Robin.
Oh wow, what a weird connection. Cool.
So all
That's
I
got to
can
be written in the sequel for sure.
exactly. Did you see where I'm going with this,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, I saw it immediately. Sure.
Well, I just ordered it. I had no
It's-
idea that
it's-
existed. I don't
It's
know
a
how.
lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a fun book.
I wish I could get it signed. If
Sounds
I returned to Necronomicon, I could get it signed by you guys. But
Well,
oh well.
We'll send you book plates and stuff.
All right, all
Wow.
right. Yeah, just ordered it.
Come out to the coast. We'll have a few laughs.
Yeah, one day.
Ed and I will
Thanks,
both
Guster.
sign everything we've spoken about tonight at Necronomicon, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
definitely.
Awesome.
Just
Track
shove it
us
in my
down.
face.
Pete,
I
I'll
will
be there.
sign nothing.
I'll sign for Pete.
You
I'll
will
sign
si-
Pete's
I'll-
name.
You
Don't
will
worry
sign
about it.
books,
You
Pete.
can-
Yeah, we'll both sign as Pete
So Melissa has a story,
on napkins. We'll only sign Pete Rollick on a napkin.
right?
On
On
haunted
a
napkin.
napkin.
On a
A
napkin.
napkin. a
Oh,
haunted
but that
napkin.
would be a great way to
That's-
sell
that's
the
a
book,
limited
right?
edition.
Yeah.
Right?
Napkin.
But it's printed on napkin paper.
You know what to do with it if you don't like it too.
I thought that might happen at some point during COVID. There was this paper shortage.
That's
Could-
true.
Could not get paper.
Yeah, that's true.
What's Melissa's
Yeah,
story?
that's
though?
Yeah.
I just-
So,
Oh, well, let me just ask one. I have a question for Douglas.
sure.
Sure.
Something in the Water. Is it going to ever be an audiobook, or you don't know yet?
I have heard that could happen. It's the best I
Okay,
can
'cause
tell you so far. I know Weird House is starting to try to develop audiobooks. I hope this will be one of them. They may already have a title out on audio by Curtis M. Lawson. I'm not sure
Okay.
of that.
Oh
but,
yeah, we had him on the show.
Well,
Yeah,
That'd be
he's
great.
He's great.
He's a
I-
good guy.
Introduced me to them.
yeah. I really like
And
Smoke
Curtis will
Dagger
also be at
audio.
Necronomicon.
Oh,
Curtis
nice.
and I
Okay,
will,
well,
will,
Very cool. Very cool.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
I was just gonna
Curtis
say-
M. Lawson. Just I know he's got a new collection out with Hippocampus, I believe. In addition to his Weird House books, but he and I will be at the Weird House table at Necronomicon as well.
Sweet.
Oh,
Very
okay.
I have a
nice.
collection coming out too. I got a plug real quick from a new press called Raven's Canticle. Alan Barr is the editor. It's going to be called That at Which Dogs Howl. It's all my Lovecraftian stories to
Oh,
date.
that's great. When
Nice.
did you say?
September. Unfortunately, too late for Necronomicon, but September.
Yeah. Pete and I will be sitting at
Good stuff.
the Lovecraft eZine / Relic table, right?
We are.
Excellent.
Didn't we talk about this?
We did. Yes.
Well, okay, you sit there.
I thought it was the Pete Rollick and Lovecraft eZine table.
Nice.
Oh.
That works for me. That's fine. It could just be the Pete Rollick table. I don't care.
Oh.
No.
Pete Rollick and company.
Yeah.
And the rest, like Gilligan's Island.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pete
The rest,
Rollick and
one more
the
character.
other ones.
So
Or
it's
it could be a band. It'd be Pete Rollick and the Napkins. One of napkins. Sorry. All right, I'll stop.
I'm gonna regret
I'll
this
talk about-
napkin thing for a long time.
Yep.
It's gonna come back.
I can
Yeah.
talk about Blobfest.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Can you see
Blobfest. Is that related to the
So-
Blob, the 50s horror
Yes.
movie?
So there is a place in Pennsylvania called Phoenixville, and there's a theater called the Colonial Theater, and that is featured in the Blob. Everyone runs out of the theater.
Where all the jelly
and that is,
pours out.
yes,
Yeah.
that's the Colonial Theater. And every year didn't have it for a few years. Well, they had it online because of COVID, but this is like the first year it's back. So they have a whole weekend called Blobfest. It starts out on Friday night where you had to buy tickets. I was working, I couldn't go, but everyone reenacts the run out of the theater.
Oh,
So
wow.
they have a huge run out. And then they have like Saturday, they have like showings of the Blob and like other 50s movies. There's a bunch of vendors, there's live bands. People get dressed up. It's a lot of fun. It's just like everyone comes out. They have a costume contest and a tinfoil hat contest. And they also have like a lot of the storefronts have like they make their storefront up like the Blob or different themes. So I went to that this weekend and it was so much fun. Like it's actually very family friendly. It's just fun. Like everyone,
That was one of the first horror movies I fell in love with as a little kid. That sounds like a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's great. They had like a little tour you could do too. There was like a diner that it was also filmed at. I'm pretty sure it was, at least it's not open anymore. Like the Colonial Theater is actually still open and showing movies. They're doing pretty well. But
So back
yeah,
in the
like-
90s, I had
Yes.
lunch in that diner.
you did?
Yes.
Well, 'cause you lived around here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You
I've seen it. I've never been to it. So
Did the ghost of Steve
That's
McQueen
awesome.
make an appearance or? 10,000 Roman gladiators? Never mind. It's a true romance thing.
I want to mention something. What does this remind you of? True Detective Season 4 is going to star Jodie Foster. It's called True
Yeah.
Detective
Wow.
Night Country.
Hmm.
Here's the synopsis, and tell me if this reminds you of anything. When the long winter night falls in Ennis, Alaska, the 6 men that operate the Silao Arctic Research Station vanish without a trace. To solve the case, detectives Liv Danvers and Evangeline Navarro will have to confront the darkness they carry in themselves and dig into the haunted truths that lie buried underneath the eternal ice.
Steve Niles Dead Night.
Wow.
I thought you were going to say Mountains of Madness.
Nope, Steve Niles Dead
Yeah.
Night.
Okay. I don't think
Made
I know
into
who
an
that
okay
is.
movie with Ethan Hawke.
What?
Yeah, you don't know this one?
No.
Barrow, Alaska enters into its like months and months of
Are you talking about the
30
vampire
Days of
movie?
Night.
yeah.
Oh, no, no,
Oh,
no.
30 Days of Night.
30 Days of
I
Night.
sure hope it's not
That's a
that
good one.
pedestrian. I mean, it
As
was a
soon as
good
I heard
movie,
Arctic,
but
as soon as I heard
I'm
Arctic
done with vampire
Research
movies.
Station, I thought the thing. But
Yeah.
I don't know, it's my mind.
Well, then that comes up with this lovely artwork I got from the artist. I think I showed you guys, but you can. This comes. Oh.
Oh,
Ah, cool.
It's
Dog.
based on Who Goes There, actually. So it says Who Goes There. It's like a print by this local artist. So
It's the
pretty
creature
cool.
reaching for the dog. Yeah, and I don't know. You
yeah,
gotta
it's like
explain
the
it, I
dog,
guess.
Yeah.
and there's the helicopter up in the distance, and like the creature. Yeah.
If you
So-
know
That's cool.
Norwegian, by the
Cool.
way, when you watch the
Yeah.
thing,
It's spoiled, right?
it's exactly right.
Yeah.
I'm kind of
Oh,
surprised True
yeah, I
Detective.
guess so.
uh, It's kind of surprising they're getting a season 4 for True Detective. It seemed I loved the
been a
first
while,
season,
huh?
but it really
The
seemed
first
like
season was great.
popular opinion just nosedived on that.
It did
Yeah.
nosedive. And I'm not going to get into my issues with season 1. I'll say I love the story, and that's it, and that I feel very vindicated.
I remember your writings at the time.
I do
Yeah.
too as well, actually.
And now everybody online
of
is going
validity there.
like, Well, that's not right. That's why he's not writing season 4, because he can't plagiarize anything. But I don't think he's involved.
He can plagiarize the thing.
There
I
you
was
go.
gonna say,
in the
yeah,
mountains
stuff
of
that's in
madness.
public domain. Yeah.
But you
We'll
know,
see if
when,
he might have weird references to Telekili.
well, I hope HBO
Be cool.
kind of went to themselves. What was so successful about season 1? Well, a lot of things. You know, Legati being one of them, but the possibility of, you know, this mystery being supernatural, or is it? And you know, with this season 4, with this plot, that could work very, very well. I mean, this could be a really good season. And Jodie Foster doesn't usually attach her name to something that she doesn't really believe in. She doesn't have to work.
Shouldn't have to.
He
Yeah.
did believe in the
She doesn't
beaver.
have
though.
to.
That's true. The little girl
my-
who lives down the lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the best season of True Detective is Sharp Objects.
What?
By Gillian Flynn.
Yeah, HBO turned it into a miniseries.
It was a great book.
I tried to watch the miniseries, and I like Amy Adams, but I just couldn't get into it.
It was really good.
My hope for True Detective was that they would pursue the supernatural thread in subtle ways in other locations, and that it would seem like
Yes.
this interconnected
Right.
thing around the country that
Right.
people didn't know was interconnected because it was different characters each time. That seemed breathtaking to me, that might be a possibility, and nah, didn't do
Yeah.
it.
It's disappointing.
It seemed obvious that was the way to go, but anyway, this article at /film.com, Night Country will have the advantage of being part of the True Detective brand. Well,
I'm sure that's an advantage.
yeah, season 1 maybe. Meaning viewers will know exactly what kind of bleak, unsettling crime story they're getting themselves into. Well, I don't know about that either. But here they say, if anything, a journey back to the indifferent, cruel universe in season 1 would be great. So, I mean, here's hoping. And
So remind me, season 1 was the southern one.
yeah.
Season 2 was the one set in the city in like LA.
With the train. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the third one was
Ethan Hawke and I can't remember the other actor, but it was like they showed them in the present, and they also went back into their past.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Was it Mahershala Ali or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
It looked like they were going to connect it to the first season, but then it turned out to be a red herring.
That's a shame.
Well, there you go. Yeah, it shouldn't be. Anyway, that looks really good to me. I have hopes for it. We'll see if they pan out. But I mean, again, Jodie Foster.
Yeah, I'll check out anything.
Yeah,
Try.
I'll definitely give that a try.
Yeah. So, all right. Anything else before we go, guys? Thanks for being here.
Again, thank you.
I have one more thing.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Because we were just talking about Neil Gaiman, so I looked it up. Good Omens season 2 is going to happen.
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
Yay!
I really enjoyed it.
And Sandman is coming.
Yeah, that's
Well,
It is.
we'll
That's
say,
soon, right?
Truly? Okay.
No, it's like they've got cast and
it's
they're-
almost
Trailers
so
out.
it's like September or November.
Oh,
Yeah, this year.
wow. That's great.
this year, yeah.
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 All right. I'm binging Evil. I'm also watching a series called Evil.
I'm watching
You're just
Evil.
evil.
I know.
Evil's pretty engrossing. I'm happy that it's exceeding my expectations.
I have a couple problems with it, but I seem to remain entertained. I think I'm like
Yes.
2 episodes behind now.
We're also starting to address the issue of their open-endedness.
Good. That was my.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to be ambiguous. It's another thing to just drop plot lines.
Yeah.
Pakistani American. I can't remember.
It is kind of like the Catholic X-Files.
Right.
Yeah.
They had the Pakistani American going. He was telling his sister, I'm frustrated. None of these cases have a resolution.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you never hear about it again.
Right.
Right. Or 5 episodes later, you kind of.
So
Yeah, there's only so long you can promise answers to secrets and not deliver.
Right.
Yeah.
Battlestar
What
Galactica.
does J.J. Abrams call it? The mystery box?
The Lost.
What we got with Lost,
Lost.
and even the
Yeah,
X-Files,
for
which
sure.
I loved. I have to say, I did love to see, even though I wasn't sold on Stranger Things for like the first few episodes this season, to see them start to weave things together and explain things that had come in prior seasons. And then there's actually some coherence there that was very satisfying.
Yeah.
Even if it took Kate Bush to save the show, which worked for me.
Well, but
Fact-
you know,
fact
here's the
is, like,
thing.
yeah.
I
Go ahead.
wanted to mention this earlier, Doug, but we got off a sidetrack. I mean,
You do that.
the power of music in this season is really important,
Yeah,
whether it be Kate Bush or
Yeah.
Metallica.
right.
That's the
very
power of
true.
love.
Yeah, and it's doing a lot of the work.
Oh, Huey
but-
Lewis too.
But I think they
No.
earned it. In the end, I felt like they earned it. That the music gave them a lot of emotion and made things personal. But it felt like the writing rose to the occasion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still have to finish it. Poor Vecna, he's just like, I don't know why I can't defeat they're just a bunch of kids in a van, you know.
Right?
Oh my God, I didn't get the Scooby-Doo connection until just now.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
Seriously?
Yeah, they're just a
Dog.
bunch
They
of
need a
kids
dog.
in
Where's the
van.
dog? But there is the weed in a van. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Shaggy.
Yeah.
Between the lines. Anyway, thanks for being here, guys. Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Ed. And
You.
Thank you guys. It's fun
Yeah.
talking with you.
to
Yeah.
everybody
Can't wait to
watching.
see y'all in the flesh. See you
That's
soon.
right.
Yeah.
Necronomicon.
August.
Next month.
Good stuff.
I once looked for Doug at a convention off and on through the whole convention.
Yeah, that was Necronomicon.
Was it? I couldn't remember which
Yeah.
one it was.
We were ships passing in the night, and we'd kind of like
Yeah.
wave at each other. And I think the last day, Sunday, we were both in the men's room at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was,
I was like, there you are.
That was the moment we got there.
You looked
At the
over.
urine. I was like, hey, Mike,
Oh, I had that
glad
happen.
to finally catch up with you here.
Yeah, but you
I
know,
had that
men
happen-
at the urinal, they're like, hey.
Yeah.
I had that happen with Peter Straub. He just
Oh, nice.
like parked himself in the urinal next to me and was like, "Hey, Pete."
You'll never
Hey, Pete.
convince me that was not planned by you.
No. And then you know my story about Stuart Gordon, right?
Yeah, I know the story about
No.
Oh, yeah, it's a good story.
Oh yeah,
It's a good
So, like,
stalking
all
story.
of-
What?
So
You
I
met
had
Stuart
I had
Gordon?
a copy of
Yeah, we
the
did.
Reanimator movie novelization, and I really wanted to get it signed by Stuart Gordon.
Well, wait a minute.
So,
You
like-
got to tell her this was at Necronomicon,
Necronomicon.
and we watched Dagon, and Stuart Gordon was there, and he introduced it to us and
Yeah.
watched the movie with us.
So
So-
when the movie's over, I go to look for him, and he's like gone. So like I chase after him out the window, out the door, and he's like nowhere around. And for like the whole con,
The greatest trick that Stuart Gordon ever
I'm
pulled.
stalking this guy, and it's like everywhere. Every time I go to get his signature, he vanishes. And I finally just give up, and like, the con ends, and it's all done. And then Monday rolls around, and I'm sitting having breakfast,
Depressed.
and he sits down right next to me.
And you didn't have the book, right?
Just like the
I had the
urinal.
book in my suitcase at the table.
That,
So
that
I'm
was
open up and I'm throwing my clothes out.
that was me and Ramsey Campbell. Same
So-
thing.
Yeah.
Came in
Anyway.
God, you
we
remember?
had breakfast.
So you met him? You met Ramsey Campbell? Where?
Yeah.
Oh, I went to lunch with him at Necronomicon, and so Joe, what was that anthology he was working on at the time?
Caligari.
Caligari, yeah,
Yeah.
Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Oh my God, what a great anthology that is! So Joe finds out that me and Ramsey are gonna have lunch, right? He's like, Mike, I gotta go to lunch with you with Ramsey, please. I gotta, Joe. He was a little excited, and I was like, yeah, I don't care, and if Ramsey doesn't care, I don't care, and his wife was there too, and Joe wanted Ramsey Campbell to be in the cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and he did talk him into it over that lunch. And so I was going to have lunch with Ramsey, and I end up talking to his wife the whole time instead. And I just like, Joe's just too happy.
You're a true friend.
Yeah, well,
That's very nice.
he was just too happy. I couldn't.
Joe's a wingman. You blocked for him.
Yeah, exactly.
So 25 years ago, I volunteered to take Ramsey Campbell shopping in Fort Lauderdale.
Wow.
And we
Like
ended
for
up going-
groceries or
No.
DVDs.
So-
For drugs, right?
No. So you know that he's a big movie fan, right?
yeah.
So we went to every used video store we could find.
You know, that's 25 years ago. If you're telling that story, video store. What's that?
And he
Miss
buys
those.
lots of weird movies and because he writes a column, but he also buys some off-color films. Let's just leave it at that.
Poor Ramsey's not here to defend himself.
I was going to say, I wonder if that, because there's a character in the Daleth trilogy that's like a teacher that loves movies. That must be like him.
It's him. Yeah.
Like, yeah. Oh, I guess the childhood part was him too. So, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we haven't had him on in a while, but he talked about movies a lot when he was on the show.
Yep.
So.
He loves films. And the weirder and lower production, the better.
Yeah.
Me too. I love those. I just
that,
watched one called Slime City. It's horrible. It was made in the 80s. It made no sense. It wasn't even a city of slime. It was just a guy made out of slime. It's just
that sounds
worth it.
Oh my god.
Worth watching.
You can let me know how
but
it is.
anyway, me and Ramsey Campbell have a lot in common. Okay, guys.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
Plus, he's a really nice guy.
Not those movies.
Yeah. Careful.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
everybody, thanks for watching, and thanks guys for being here. If you haven't read Douglas Wynne or Edward Erdelac, I hope this convinces you to start. So, and I'll let you guys know when I get this on audio, where the big part of the audience is, and I'll send you guys a link. So,
thank you.
Cool.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah, Pete.
Good to talk to you,
Rick,
Pete.
Melissa, thanks for being
And
here
Melissa.
too.
Thanks all.
Yeah.
Great seeing you folks.
Nice meeting you guys.
Have a good
Yeah,
night.
good to see you, and hopefully see as many of you as possible at Necronomicon.
Yeah, hope so.
Thanks, guys. Night.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
All right, we're